Good morning, welcome to Mornings with Meep. And today I'm talking about one of my most recent publications. Watch out, Batman, it's the Actuary. Um, and it's ostensibly about um, a two-issue story in Detective Comics, which is what Batman was in, I think, 683 and 684. And so because of copyright issues, etc., in the Society of Actuaries, and I got my nice new fleece on. Um, I couldn't put them in the SOA site. However, I've written about this before on my blog, so I'll drop a link to that and to the article in the video description. But I have the comic panels. And I'm just going to do an extremely quick version of the story that's in this two-issue story, is that Penguin catches, or his guys catch, this man in his casinos who has been beating the house, and who gives his name as the Actuary. Once the Actuary gets the ear of Penguin, he says, I can do analysis for you. Basically, I can be your criminal consultant. And the deep insight the Actuary gives to Penguin about Batman is this. Batman pretty much thwarts crime at night in the dark. And often it rains too, but that's not it's not necessary for it to be raining, but generally atmospheric, it's in the dark, etc. So let's do a daytime heist. Batman's sure not to show up. Okay. So obviously they do their daytime heist, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it does end up with Batman in the dark. This is during daytime, by the way. That this occurs, but Batman manages to essentially make it rain and be in the dark while he thwarts Penguin's henchmen. And Penguin is really not happy with the Actuary's results. A wise man once said there are three kinds of lies, dumb lies, and statistics. And the Actuary is like, I was working with flawed data. Mind you, Penguin does not kill the Actuary. Gotham's finest show up, and Penguin says, oh, look, I've been holding him for you guys. Here he is. And the Actuary goes to jail because he's the one who masterminded this great plot. What am I talking about today? Because, of course, you can read the piece, and I talk about the analysis going wrong, and then I try to connect it to professionalism in actuarial work. So, okay, it's a reach. I'll just put it. So there are two things that I want to talk about. It's basically what I write for free, what I present for free, and do on the blog and stuff. But no, I mean, you can give me money, buy me some tea, buy me a book or whatever. I'll drop a link in the video description. If you want to give me money, I'll take it. But obviously, you just can't stop me from writing. I often write for free. I've kept a record. This is not my blog, but of the various articles I've written, primarily for actuarial publication. So one of my motivations is to amuse myself, and sometimes I try to find the most tenuous connections to the actuarial profession. I'm just going to admit it. I have been wanting to write about this comic book story for a while, just because it's funny, and I'll get back to that in a bit. But I've done stuff like take my viewing of a Japanese TV show called The Professionals and use that. Let's see. I've done stuff, Winston Churchill on hobbies, so that's painting as pastime, so I use that for an actuarial publication. I mean, some of this is what can I get away with. I have been intending to write something about Dante's Divine Comedy, not necessarily Inferno. Purgatory is Purgatorio is actually my favorite bit of the Divine Comedy, but I still haven't figured out how to use it. Oh, yeah, this was my favorite influential lesson from Ben Franklin, Borrow Books, which is a little tip from Franklin of how to basically break the ice, but also make someone think well of you. And oh, and here's another one, Candace Wheeler. I love Candace Wheeler. She was an interior designer. Um, so yeah, I mean, you can see I try to see what I can get away with getting published. I have been working on a piece on Julia Child and error correction. I swear I'm going to make it work. Okay, so that's the first thing. But the second thing is something that's not specific to me, but to actuaries in general. And that is we are always on the lookout for any kind of pop culture or just wider culture references to actuaries. Now, there are reasons for this. Um, I mean, I'm sure doctors and lawyers get a little tired, and then there's cops. Certain professions are often portrayed in media, whether nonfiction, fiction, whatever. Okay, movies, TV shows, etc. The thing is, of course, certain professions have certain dramatic potential, as lawyers and doctors and cops. Some do not, like accountants say, or actuaries, just from sheer numerousness of a profession. There's only tens of thousands of actuaries in the entire world. And that's even throwing in some of the people who are only partially credentialed, maybe 100,000 at most. Versus there are millions of accountants. And this is even if we just restrict to credentialed people. And don't get me started on the investment folks. So there aren't very many actuaries to begin with. So we're always on the lookout. When I heard about these issues, I went on eBay, and I did this over a decade ago, by the way, to find copies of this issue. And I know someone who's had art made where he's done a triptych, and it was on Twitter, an actuarial drama in 3 parts. So actuaries are not often portrayed in fiction, and especially like this. So examples I know of are About Schmidt, which isn't really about. So Jack Nicholson plays a retired actuary, and I've never watched the movie, by the way. The movie supposedly opens with him. He's retired, and basically all his material is being taken, work material from his office is being taken to the dumpster. Okay, and I've actually seen essentially that sort of thing happen. And not just people who retired, but also when we moved between office buildings before. A lot of people would dump old files, and yeah, some of it is worthless. But I remember when I worked at TIA Craft back then, when we changed offices, people were going to throw out their old actuarial texts, and I absolutely took them. I have insurance-related books that go back to the 19th century, and as in that's when they were printed. I have some material that's when it was originally written, and it's falling apart. I'm intending to make ebook versions of some of them because they're obviously in the public domain at this point. So yeah, that's one of the things I do on the side. In any case, we're always looking for mentions, and it always cracks me up when it's obvious to me that, like, whoever wrote this they probably have an actuary as a friend who might have been complaining about their job or just, making jokes and that kind of thing. Charles Dickens befriended an actuary through his own laborious process of trying to get a life insurance policy when he was going to America for a lecture tour, I believe. And the life insurance company was giving him such a hassle, so it wouldn't underwrite a policy I'll talk about maybe the history of life insurance another time. A lot of people don't realize how sketchy life insurance was considered in the 19th century and how the industry combated that. It's a lot more interesting than you think. Uh, and there are stories of serial killers that involve this kind of thing. And that's actually the short story that Charles Dickens wrote. I'd have to actually go and find it again. An actuary is the hero of the piece. But that's the other aspect, is most of the time when you hear about actuaries, and the two examples I was actually going to give, I'm a big Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, and I've remembered two riffs that involve mentioning actuaries. One was, I'm an actuary and even I have to go through all this stuff, and it's a character walking through an elaborate security system. I think that's from Secret Agent Super Dragon, but I'm not sure. The other one I do remember, which was from Bloodlust, which is a version of The Most Dangerous Game, and they have the villain thinking in his head, I had a nice actuarial job in Minneapolis, but no, I had to go out and buy an island. And that's part of what makes it funny, too, especially with Penguin and the Actuary, is we're mainly seen as numbers nerds. We have high professional ethics and, a lot of integrity, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're going to be anybody other than the boring nerd, you would think we'd be the hero and not the villain. So that there's, the one thing that really cracks me up is the concept of being a criminal consultant, because I'm going like, yeah, I could see how that would work. But anyway, so I had a lot of fun writing this. I do have these ideas all the time. And of course, part of the writing for free for other people, so I can write whatever I want on the blogs. I've been doing it on my own website going back to the 1990s. Then I went to LiveJournal in 2000. And then I had my own blog stump on marypat.org starting in 2014. And then I started on Substack in 2020. Though, there's a lot of copying between the different places. It's very easy for me to publish, my own work. It's trying to convince other people to publish stuff you've written. That's the challenge, especially in a professional, newsletter. We're very serious people, actuaries, Actually, we're actually a pretty congenial bunch, at least the ones who go to the meetings, symposia, conventions, seminars, and that kind of thing. One meeting I went to in Hartford, we are one of the easiest audiences to make laugh. Like, the love of puns is throughout the actuarial profession, which is, I think our thing we should be most ashamed about. But we are a really easy laugh, and if you can't get an audience of actuaries to laugh, at least in the U.S., you need to rethink your life choices, because it is very easy to get it's easy to get me to laugh. But yeah, it's very easy to get actuaries to laugh, especially if you're making fun of them in certain ways. We have a whole bunch of actuarial jokes out there, and I'm just going to close with my favorite actuarial joke that I came up with, and it's situational. It was another actuary who was telling jokes, especially pun-filled, which I try not to encourage. And everyone else was going lol and ROFL and stuff. This is online. And then he explicitly addressed me, Meep, why aren't you laughing? And I said, mark it as IBNR. Another time.